What's going on? Welcome back to the Beyond Clean Expert Series. My name is Bobby Parker, and you're watching a look inside the Beyond Clean Borescope Expert Series. We've brought with us Jenni Gibbs and Andy Sundet as our Borescope experts here to talk to us about how to set up an effective Borescope program in your facility. And today's episode is around cleaning verification. There's a lot of steps that go into manual cleaning, whether we're talking about instruments or endoscopes. And it can seem unthinkable to have another set of program and set of steps and how to verify that the cleaning took place, but it is a very effective tool to do just that. So guys, if you could walk us through what role you see Borescopes playing in verifying that our manual cleaning protocols that we've so carefully set up are actually being followed properly.
I'll jump in. I see, and I always have one or two, but I see kind of two veins that this falls into. One is that immediate cleaning verification at the decontam sink, at the endoscope reprocessing sink, when you're at the instrument table doing your device inspection. So it's that continuous part in that process as the instrument is flowing through the department. That is definitely, I think, the main thing everybody thinks about when they say cleaning verification. And that is dependent on the process and where you have them and how you're using it in the department. I think the second step is more of that auditing or process tool. Are you checking it after the fact? Are you verifying things were done? Are you going in and auditing what some of those results were? So it's some of that looking for trends or double checking or training efficacy or whatever that is that you're auditing and looking at to get some of those data points. So I think it's kind of those two main camps.
Yeah, so Jenni, if you were given the budget today for one endoscope and you had to pick if you're going to put it in your decontamination room, or I guess we could say scope cleaning room if we're talking about endoscopes, or you could put it on the clean side and do the auditing, where would you personally land on where you would put your one?
I would, if I had one, I would put it in decontam. It can't be clean. It can't be sterilized. It can't be high level disinfected if it's not clean. So I need to verify the most important step, the root. All of us in sterile processing know the root is that manual clean. And so whether it's at your decontamination sink to make sure you got all that debris out of those lumens, out of the shavers, out of the nooks and crannies, or in your endoscope to verify that manual clean in an endoscope, 150 steps if you count them all, every twist, turn, knob, nile, rotation, 150 steps. You need to make sure that that's done. You cannot, especially with high level disinfection, you have to make sure that manual clean is complete and that the device is ready and able to be cleaned. And you can only do that by looking at all 100% of the device, the outside and the inside.
Yeah, I suspected you might say that, and I've seen a lot of departments that have their one borescope on the clean side, particularly in instruments. It's a little different for our high level disinfection scopes because you want to get that inspection before it goes through the HLD, or else you're going to have to do it again. It'd be like scoping a tray after it's been sterilized. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But particularly on that instrument side, a lot of that happening on the clean side. Don't see a ton of them working in decontam, and so I wanted to give you like a 30-second platform to try to persuade people that it can work, that you can set up a borescope in decontam and it not totally botch your whole decontamination flow. Have you ever seen that work effectively, and maybe some tips for people to be able to do cleaning verification on the fly in decontam, getting that manual cleaning right before it goes in the instrument washer?
I 100% have seen it. I have that. And if you don't have it, sometimes we run over to the endoscope sink and do it at the using the endoscope one, just to look at the critical devices. But I think it's much easier now with the new technology. So now that we have high definition video digital borescopes and it displays on a computer, absolutely a barrier if you've been in the borescope game a long time, where it's the old optic ones and then you're in decontam and looking through your mask or this and your gloves, and it was impossible to see through the optic lens, through the wet, through your shield without contaminating, to like lift off your, like, it just didn't work. Now if you have a simple inspection station or something on your sink, or if you have a tracking system, like there's typically a computer there, and to take the one or two devices over to it if it's not right on your sink to just inspect those high risk devices or those lumen devices can be very simple and easy. for me, the big positive and the big push is then you don't have the contamination and the risk on your clean side. Your clean side is clean. You don't have, you're blowing out, an instrument or a lumen and there's stuff spewing out of it, or you've have it on your instrument table, or you avoid so much of that contamination for the instruments and for your staff not wearing PPE on that side. So for me, it's a major staff safety reason to have it in decontam and catch it there. In a perfect world, you have it in both because you have that double check then when it comes. But if you have it and you never find anything, perfect. But then as the instrument tech signing off on that set, you can verify if you have the borescope on this clean side that 100% it's done. So it can be either or. I would say my route is, decontam just for the safety risk for the staff, but it kind of needs to be both, in my opinion. You kind of tricked me with a hard question there.
I gave you one of those no right answer either ors. I was leading a department that had one only on the clean side, but I've had a change of heart over the last couple of years that if I were running a department today, I would probably lean towards putting that in decontam for the reasons that you said, and as an answer to the pushback of we don't have time to use this in decontamination, we're too busy. You just need to zoom out a little bit to the department and talk about the double cleaning of that device and how much time was wasted in that process and how much time would have been saved in doing that on the front end and getting the cleaning right while the instrument's still in decontam. So I appreciate that answer. I think you gave the right one, Jenny. Good job.
And also on your thought process, if you have to send it back, then that instrument's missing from the set. It's got to go through the wash. What's the delay? It's not getting sterilized. Is that impacting your case build? Like there's a whole timeline that's impacting besides just that rework of having to reclean it too.
Yeah. So I feel like in this episode, we're diving a little deeper into episode 8. So if you out there haven't watched episode 8 around quality assurance, go look at that. Jenny's got a great chart that talks about kind of the two veins of cleaning, and we're diving into the manual cleaning half of this. One that I don't feel like we touched on much was around equipment performance. We talked some about evaluating technician performance, which I think is really valuable. You can find out who maybe needs some more training on the cleaning side, but how could a borescope be used to measure the effectiveness of maybe your AER or your washers or something like that?
Especially if you're having a change, our washers, we do our washer verification tests if you're doing that, so again, the cleanliness of that. And then again, but for your lumen devices, are you doing the lumen checks, and tracking that too? But you can see if there's so it's not probably so much as your like gross debris, because hopefully you've caught some of that. But again, is there maybe like detergent crystallization, or is it not dry, the drying of the washers or of your AER in the purging, or like if you're doing your secondary like drying time, or if you have a cabinet that has a drying cabinet, or if you have an endoscope cabinet that has the continuous airflow, is it actually working, and are those devices dry? So you can use it as a quality check. I've seen it more on again, if there's other like residuals or chemicals, or like is something impacting the quality of the metal inside, is it like rusting inside, or so there's some of that stuff that you can kind of see where it's not so much the gross debris, because hopefully you've caught that in the process. So it's some of those other veins of stuff where it's just not right. There's a coating on it, there's pockets on it, there's you can tell there's been dried bubbles where maybe it didn't purge all the way through, or rings inside, or different things like that. A lot of oddly like crystallization if the chemical isn't right, or the washer isn't functioning quite right, or the AER is leaving residual chemicals on, or whatever that is.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Before we wrap this one, have you got any other deeper dives into manual cleaning verification aside from the equipment that we talked about, or doing kind of at the sink inspection of instruments in decontam that you'd want to blow out before we wrap it?
Honestly, it's if you have the tools where the team needs to use them, they want to use them. They want to have their stamp. Again, it comes down to that personal pride that I did that job. They're going to use it as their own verification. It's not so much, and again, in a highly functioning department with your skilled and professional technicians, it's not always like leadership doing the auditing or that cleaning verification. They're doing their own. They want to make sure that they've got it done. They want to make sure that every time I'm brushing this better, I've got it cleaned. I didn't have to re-clean it myself. They're using it as a tool to train people that they're using, in that training process as a collaborative tool for themselves. So it's such a powerful tool to give the technician the ability to audit and improve in quality, improve their own work. It's just, once they latch onto it, they're asking you for it. Can we have another one? This one's tied up. Can we have one at every instrument table? I need one at this sink and decontam too. Can I use it for this type of instrument? Oh, it's interesting if you have a really good solid borescope program going on and you ask staff, what do you use it on that I wouldn't normally, like, what's different ways you use your borescope? And they'll tell you, oh, I look at this with this. I look at this with this because I can't see these teeth and this or that or whatever. So they'll find all these different ways to use that high definition video camera that's on the end of that device, even if it's not in a lumen, because they want to do the right thing every time for the patient.
That's right. Empowering your team to do the right thing. It is possible to have a Borescope program where you're not begging your staff to use it, where they're the creative ones and wanting to use it on devices to keep patients safe. And so you just have to give them the time to be able to do it. So thanks for sharing that, Jenny. Andy, I'm going to give you the closing word. We've kept you quiet this episode a little bit around cleaning verification with Borescopes.
Yeah, I think I even took some notes just down because I'm, like I said on a couple prior episodes, every time Jenny kind of shares more nuggets, I keep soaking them up. I think one thing that sticks out to me as well in observing other programs being, lifting and elevating a Borescope program in the department, you don't have to get it right the first time, right? You can start clean side, you can start dirty side. Both of those have some pros and cons, and I think that it's okay to change. And at least as you're thinking about that this doesn't have to be a one and done. So think about walking before you run with the program, and think about and knowing that it's okay to change that, or like Jenny said, add a borescope on both sides at some point. So your department better than we all will, and I think that we see programs that are on both sides, and you're going to come up with your best solution.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Andy. That's going to do it for today's episode on cleaning verification. Next time we get together, we're going to talk about the question that I'm sure all of you were thinking in the back of your minds. I know I certainly was when we were talking about using this thing on the clean side and coming across dirty instruments. How do we keep this device from becoming a cross-contamination risk in the department? So excited to dive into that one next week. If you have any other questions around cleaning verification using Borescopes that we didn't get to today, I'd encourage you to reach out directly to Andy or Jenny. You can find their contact info in the description of the video below, or you can reach out to us at info@beyondclean.net. And until we get together next time, we will encourage you to keep fighting dirty.